Okay, to all those that listen to the recordings and are not here for the live share, you'll have to excuse the fact that last week's share was not recorded due to a technical glitch. That's the natural cause, and I think the real cause was because in last week's share, matters of great secrets were discussed, and it wasn't bashert that it should be publicized. So maybe take that as an encouragement to come to the share in person. Kapadim, now we're going to go weiter, but I wanted to mention just one point, which I think I might have alluded to last week. The Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Pei Tes that Roy Hoya Yaakov Avinu Leir B'Mitzrayim B'Shal Shalois Shal Barzel Elish Chusay Garmaloi. Really, Yaakov Avinu should have gone down to Mitzrayim in chains of iron. So we spoke about this last week, about the fact that the descent to Mitzrayim sort of happened in a way of Hester, sort of did and sort of didn't. Yosef was instrumental in making things happen in a way that seemed unreasonable and full of suffering, and the Navi calls that Pi Hashem Loisha Alu. They didn't ask Hashem whether they should go down to Mitzrayim or not. Instead, the descent to Mitzrayim was orchestrated in a way that was without communication with Hashem. The Hepech of Nevuah. Yaakov Avinu, ultimately, when he went down to Mitzrayim, the pasuk says Vayomer, Hashem appeared to Yisrael b'maras halayla and told him not to be afraid to go down. But that's what the Gemara says was not really the way it was supposed to happen. Now, whatever that Gemara means, or whatever it's doing in that particular spot, there's a lot going on there. And if I figure it out, we'll probably get back to it. But I just wanted to point it out that I was saying that even Yaakov's descent, and in a certain sense, we said the story of Yosef and what he was trying to do was cut off. How was Yosef trying to induce Yaakov to come? Maybe the original story was that Yaakov would come down looking for Binyamin or something like that. And Maisa, that's not what happened. Yosef's whole plan didn't work out. Okay. I wanted to say one thing. Last week we were on the Lashon in Pasuk Nun, where it says Shnas Hara'ov, the year of the hunger. And the question is, there are years of hunger, plurals. Why does it say the year of hunger? So we spoke about that last week. But I realized one thing, which is at the end of Parashas Vayigash, there's the other description of the hunger years. Basically, we're going to see tonight is the 5 psukim from Pasuk Nun Gimel till the end of the Perek describes the Shnos Ha'arav and how Yosef dealt with them. And then at the end of Parashas Vayigash, there's a much more detailed description. And depending on Pshat, whether the Rav continued after Yaakov came down to Mitzrayim or it didn't, as Chazal say it didn't. So if it didn't, then the Pesukim over there are describing the same things that are already described here. According to Ben Ezra, it's describing the subsequent years. So just a ha'ara that here the Torah describes the years of the Rav and the year goes back to him. But I just wanted, but the Shnas Rav there in Pasuk Yud Ches, the end of Parashat Vayigash, Pasuk Yud Ches, it talks about the first year, and in Pasuk Yud Zayin and Yud Ches, it calls the first year the Shana Hahi. So there was a Shana Hahi, and then there was the Shana Hashenis. So that also might mean the Shnas Harav, as in the first year, was significant. It was that year, and then the second year was different than the first year, as it's described in Vayigash. Each year had its own mahalach. How that ties into Yosef's not having children, I don't know. But just I noticed that we do have this idea that there was a singular year of the Rav. Okay, now let's go into the new psukim. So today we're going to learn Psukim Nun Gimel through Nun Zayin. Vatichlana Sheva Shnei HaSava Asher Hoya B'Eretz Mitzrayim. So the 7 years of Sava that were in the land of Mitzrayim ended. Vatichilena Sheva Shnei HaRav Lavoi. So the 7 years of Sava ended, and the 7 years of Rav began to come. Okay, I just want to remind you, this is something we spoke about a lot, but I want to remind you because it's going to, I think we're going to get back to this later. The psukim in the idea of the 7 years of Sava preparing for what's going to happen afterwards appears in Koheles Perek Yud Aleph, where it says Shlach lach al pnei hamayim ki b'roiv hayomim timtzenu. So you have to throw the lechem onto the pnei hamayim. There's the al hayar. Para is al hayar, and you have to throw the lechem and prepare. Ten chelik l'shiva v'gam l'shmoin. So put it away for 7 years and for the 8th year because you don't know what evil is coming. How do I know that the pasuk is talking about the story of Yosef? Is because if you go back to Parak Yud, we see all the psukim follow, and there's lots to learn from there. But just pointing out, to remind you, because we're going to get back to this later, that the 7 years of Sava that prepare for the 8th year of Rav, that's Shlach Lach Pnei Amayim and Chelik L'Shiva V'gam L'Shmoyim. Okay. Furthermore, this is also a point we made before. The pasuk says the 7 years of Sava ended, and the 7 years of Rav began. So there are 2 units of time over here. There's first of all that there was a 7-year cycle of Sava, and there's also the beginning, the fact that the 7 years of Rav had a beginning. Okay. And this finds expression in Sefer Amos. And this we're going to be talking about a lot. So look this up. This is Amos Perek Ches. We already did speak about this a lot. In Amos Perek Ches it says the following. Amos Perek Ches, Psukim Daled and on, talk about the people that monopolize and corner the wheat market and name whatever price they want and take advantage of the poor. Okay, and just to remind you, I mean, like many other things, this has parallel to the parsha we're learning, not because of one pasuk, but because every single pasuk, if you look closely, you'll see them all over the place. But just to show you the most obvious one is that the most obvious tushal to our parsha, because there it talks about the people that abuse the poor, and in pasuk K it says they say, let's open the grain niftecha bar, let's let everyone buy after prices go up when time passes, and then pasuk Vav it says to buy the poor with kesef and to buy the evyoin for shoes. For shoes, this business of evyoin for shoes is in Amos Perek Beis, where it says they sold the tzaddik for kesef and the evyoin for shoes, which is where Chazal says talking about the shvatim who bought shoes with the proceeds with that kesef, the S10 kesef. And here the pasuk says Amos is giving musar to the people that abuse the poor, abuse them by cornering the wheat market and by selling the poor for shoes. So in other words, the Shvatim did to Yosef that abuse. Yosef did a similar abuse, which is that he took advantage of the Rav to monopolize the wheat and to make all the riches accrue to Pari. Now, we spoke about this in the past. Again, we don't need to blame Yosef here. This is basically Yosef under the influence of Pari, and not only under the influence of Pari, Yosef is putting himself forward to Pari as being the one who's the wisest man in Pari's regime, meaning the one who can do things in the most favorable way for Pari, in such a way that Pari would do it. So we don't have to see this as Yosef's chesaron per se, but rather Pari's chesaron, or Yosef's chesaron in as much as he's working with Pari, which we spoke about a lot. The point I want to make for this pasuk specifically is that there it says in Amos Perek Ches pasuk, hey, Masa Ya'avar Chodesh v'Hashabbos, right? When will the Chodesh pass and the Shabbos? And the point is waiting for the right time for when the prices will go up. If you have wheat, you don't want to sell it when it's still when prices are still low. You wait till time passes, and that's when everyone needs it. So there it says Chodesh and Shabbos, and here 7 years of Sava passed, that's like a Shabbos, and the 7 years of hunger began, that's like Chodesh, it's a new time, and that's when Yosef is now ready to make his money, which we'll soon see how he does it. We'll soon see what the Psukim describe. Okay, now here it says in Pasuk Nun Gimel that the Sava was Be'eretz Mitzrayim, Asher Hoya Be'eretz Mitzrayim, which is the same lashon it uses in Pasuk Nun Ches, Sheva Shonim Asher Hoya Be'eretz Mitzrayim. Why use that lashon? We spoke about then. But here, where it says that the 7 years of Sava were Be'eretz Mitzrayim, it's a contrast to Pasuk Nun Daled, where the Rav was not only Be'eretz Mitzrayim, but it was B'chol Ha'aratzis. So the Sheva Shnei HaSava were Be'eretz Mitzrayim, and the Rav was B'chol Ha'aratzis. V'atechilana Sheva Shnei HaRav Lavoi, the Sheva Shnei Rav began to come. That was the prediction. Hine Sheva Shonim Ba'os, Ka'asher Amar Yosef. Here the pasuk says, as Yosef predicted. It doesn't say that about the Sheva Shnei Sava, as we mentioned, because the Sava in Mitzrayim is not a great chiddush, and the Ramban has been like this, that when Yosef interpreted the dream, he just said Sheva Shonim Ba'is, that the Sheva Paris HaTovos are Sheva Shonim. It doesn't say Sheva Shnei Sava, because that's the default for Mitzrayim, which is Gigan Hashem. The default for Mitzrayim is to be Sava. So when the 7 years of Sava came, that doesn't confirm that Yosef's prediction was true. When the Sheva Shnei Rav came, that's when it says Kasher Amar Yosef. When something happened that was predicted and otherwise unexpected, that's the Sheva Shnei Rav. Then the pasuk says, then as Yosef predicted, so came to pass. Okay. Now here the pasuk Nun Dal tells us Chiddush. Vahi Ra'av B'chol Ha'aratzis. So firstly, just what does B'chol Ha'aratzis mean? So many of the Farshim say, the Ben Ezra and Ramban, B'chol Ha'aratzis means the lands that were around Mitzrayim, and that's what it says in the Medrash Rabbah too. B'chol Ha'aratzis means the lands that are around there. But the Gemara in Pesachim says that Yosef took the wealth from the whole world, because pasuk Nun Zayit says B'chol Ha'aretz, the whole earth. So according to that, B'chol Ha'aretz means the whole earth. And I think even the Gemara, if I remember correctly, the Gemara says B'chol Ha'aratzis would mean the local ones, but then it says B'chol Ha'aretz in pasuk Nun Zayin, that's Marbe Kol Ha'olam Kula. Fine. But either way, the pasuk, the prediction of Yosef. First point is, the prediction of Yosef was that there's going to be a Ra'av in Eretz Mitzrayim. And here the pasuk, when the Ra'av actually happened, the pasuk makes the point that the Ra'av was B'chol Ha'aratzis. Number one. But more importantly, what is this even important? Why is this even relevant to, why is this even relevant to what's about to happen? And this we have to look closely at the next psukim. So we're learning the psukim now at the end of Perek Aleph, the psukim that describe the Sheva Shnei Sava and then the Rav. And in pasuk Nun Daled, when it says the 7 years of Rav began, it says there was a Rav B'chol Ha'aratzis. But in Eretz Mitzrayim there was Lechem, and then the pasuk Nun Hey starts talking about what happened in Mitzrayim. So why is it important? What is the pasuk Nun Daled? Why is pasuk Nun Daled introducing a new fact that the Rav wasn't only in Eretz Mitzrayim, but it was B'chol Ha'aratzis, which l'chera has nothing to do with anything until the end of the parak, where it talks about all the lands came, and Vayar Yaakov ki yashav b'Mitzrayim. That's what's important. So, in other words, why does the pasuk, when it's describing what happened in Mitzrayim, pasuk Nun Daled, when it's describing what happened in Mitzrayim, it right away introduces that the Rav was broader than Mitzrayim, and it was B'chol Ha'aratzis. Okay, so in order to understand that, we have to look closely at the next few psukim, and you'll see that there's very strange things in the next few psukim. Let's see. Let's just put together the psukim, and then we'll try to make sense of them. There was a Rav in all the Aratzis, and in the land of Mitzrayim there was Lechem. Okay, fine. So there's Lechem. That seems to be like everything's fine. And then pasuk Nun Hey said Atir of Kol Eretz Mitzrayim. But there was Lechem. What's that? And then it says, okay, they appealed to Paro for Lechem, and Paro said to go to Yosef and do what he says. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. It doesn't say what Yosef said. It just says, in pasuk Nun Vav, it seems like the Rav progressed further, because it says, V'hara av haya al kol pnei haaretz. And then Yosef does something, and then the pasuk says, Vayechazak harav Eretz Mitzrayim. Everything is like being mitzi. You know the Gemara in Yuma that mitzi miyad mitzi, like in Pashas Parah, where each pasuk is like going the opposite direction. And then it says, okay, v'chol ha'aretz bara b'Mitzrayim. So what is the sequence of here? So what I'm presenting for you is Abarbanel and others, and here's how it goes. And this is how it puts it all together. There's a Rav, as Yosef predicted. Okay, fine. No problem. Mitzrayim has planned ahead, right? Everything should be fine. There shouldn't be a crisis, really, because Yosef planned ahead. But the Rav was B'chol Ha'aratzis, and only Mitzrayim has Lechem, which obviously means that all of a sudden we have a problem here, which is that Mitzrayim's Lechem was now being put on and demanded by Kol Ha'aratzis, right? So that's the problem. That's right when we have a problem. Things are going wrong because the prediction was a Rav Mitzrayim. No one ever said there's going to be a Rav B'chol Ha'aratzis, but now there's a Rav B'chol Ha'aratzis, and only Mitzrayim has Lechem, so we have an imbalance. Vatirav kol eretz Mitzrayim, because of this imbalance, because they were not only supplying themselves, but they were supporting kol haratzos. So they came to Paro and said, we have to do something about this. And what they wanted to do was, we have to make an embargo on bread. We can't have bread sales, right? Bread exports. Paro says, I'm not in charge. Yosef is. The point of this pasuk is to show that Yosef is in charge. As yet Paro said, everything's up to you. But we'll see there's another reading there too. Yosef did nothing. He did nothing. He only let things get worse. That's what he did. And then, when things were really bad, only then, Vayiftach. Now, when he was Vayiftach, what did he do? Did he open up the things and flood the market so that the Rav ended? No. He opened it, but Vayishbar, he dealt it, he sold it, in a way that the Rav remained acute. He didn't open it so that, okay, fine, I put an end to the Rav, because then the price will come crashing back down. The whole thing was a build-up. This is exactly what it says in Amos. You were here for Amos? You walked in. Okay. It says in Amos Paraches. This is what we started with. This point in Amos Paraches, it says, Pasuk Daled, Shem Uzois HaShoyafim Evion Lashpis Adi Oretz.
Where is it?
Amos Paraches, Pasuk Daled. And this is talking about Yosef. I said why before. I won't repeat that, but so Paraches Pasuk Daled, listen those who are seeking to take advantage of the Evion. For Lashpis Ani Eretz Lemor, Mosai Ya'avar HaChodesh V'Lashbir Shever, V'Hashabbos V'Niftach Bar. When will the Chodesh pass? And that's when we're going to do the Shever, and when the Shabbos is over, we're going to open up and give the bar. Just careful not to touch this cord because it's sensitive. Okay? So they wait till people really need it, and prices go up, and that's when they're Peseach. To corrupt the prices. Okay? So that's what the pasuk is saying. So that's the whole sequence here.
Hoarding.
What?
It's hoarding.
It's hoarding, and then Vayiftach. That's like Vayiftach. Right? We only open it when it's advantageous to the seller. So the pasuk over here is describing how, and the culmination of this is V'chol haaretz bo Mitzrayim l'ishbal Yosef. Yosef made a monopoly by letting the Rav get really bad, and then not letting the Rav end, but rather he sold ba'ofen. In other words, a pasuk in Rav where Yosef sold it. It says Vayechzek Rav. He sold it ba'ofen that the Rav was still chazak. So that v'chol haaretz bo Mitzrayim, and as we mentioned with the Gemara Pesachim, v'chol haaretz is very kaidal. It's like the whole world. Yosef had a monopoly on the whole world.
But could we also then conserve the amount of food that won't go to waste?
Could be, I guess.
If it's very valuable and everyone needs it, then
you mean you can only give a little at a time, maybe. Because otherwise you're going to maybe you have to save it. Right. Could be. I mean, I guess you have to figure it out. I mean, if he saved it, then I don't know. How much should he give? No, was there enough? You have to ask the following question: was there enough for people to live comfortably if it would have lasted for 7 years? I don't know. See, here's the thing. Right, the whole entire world that wasn't predicted. Something happened that wasn't predicted. Right? Because that Shani, the Rav only lasted 2 years, but Yosef wasn't supposed to know that. So something is different here, right? Because he was planning for Mitzrayim, and then it ended up being Kol Haratzos. Yeah, you have to figure that out. Right, okay. Now, so then there's another reading here, the fact that Yosef, Paro is sending them to Yosef. It's okay. No, it's fine. Just don't bang. I think it's still good. The fact that Paro sent them to Yosef, not good. Second. Okay. I missed a few minutes on that. Fine. If you're listening to this on the audio, you missed a few minutes, unfortunately. But if you could listen on the video, it looks like it's full. Okay. So like this. According to this, it's suggesting that Chizkuni says this, that Paro told them, go to Yosef. Let him do it. Chizkuni says because it's not covered for the king to be selling grain to his subjects. So the fact that so basically Paro has this plausible deniability of making it Yosef's problem. So he's sending them to Yosef. It's a way of Paro making a killing without without taking the disgrace of being
owned by Paro?
Really, it's Paro's, but by the fact because Paro put Yosef in command. So it's not merely that Paro gave Yosef power; it's also that now Paro is able to accrue wealth, which he wouldn't have been able to do as Paro, because pasnish that the king should take such advantage. So he's like, look, as long as do for me, it's Yosef, and Yosef meanwhile is working for him, and it's a great system. Everyone gets rich except for the Egyptians, who Amos says, what are you taking advantage of? Okay, so just to repeat for the audio, which missed a couple of minutes. Because what it says in Sefer Amos is that Yosef is looking to take advantage of the poor when at the most advantageous time, and and again, what that means is that he's working for Paro and doing Paro's dirty work, as the Chizkuni says, and that's how you read the Psukim. So just to summarize, I read the Psukim. The 7 years of suffer were over. The 7 years of hunger began because there was a Rav B'chala Aratzos and there was only lechem in the land of Mitzrayim. Therefore, there was an imbalance, and Mitzrayim became hungry. And they screamed to Paro, saying, "We have to put an end to this business of us being the breadbasket for the whole region because it's depleting our own supplies." And Paro said, "Whatever Yosef says, that we should do." And Yosef did nothing. Yosef said, "I don't know. Let's think about it. To come back later." Come back in a Chodesh and a Shabbos, like the pasuk says Namis. And then, meanwhile, and then by Yiftach Yosef, like it says Namis v'niftacha, that's when he opens it. But then the pasuk says, because the point is that Yosef did not bring an end to the Rav by opening all the stockpiles and flooding it. Rather, he dealt it out in small amounts at a time, such that there was still a Rav, and therefore, Yosef, and Yosef has ultimate, absolute economic power.
But could it also be that since the dream was that there would still be a Rav, won't be no Nikar? Has to stay a Rav.
That's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question. If you would have made that it's not a Rav, would that mean the dreams are interesting? I thought about that a few times. Whether it's really a Rav. Okay, right. I mean, that's the old question, though: is Yosef responsible for his dreams? For fulfilling the dreams? What? Right, for his pisser. Right, some people say he was. Why he didn't tell the Shvat or whatever. Oh, that's his own dreams. Here it's Parish. Right.
So he believes in the Hemshech. He says that it'll be another 5 years.
Right. Which there wasn't. But that also, some say there were because of that kasha. The Ramban and Rebbeinu Bechai echoes it. Brings the Chazal that when Yaakov came, the Rav ended, and he says, so then what he means is that Yosef's dreams aren't, then the interpretation is not true. So he says some say that came back after Yaakov died. Even then, it's not the same thing, because he said, Mamar Lakil Nasoysa, so sure about that. Right? 17 years later. Okay. About that point. Okay, I just wanted to start to a few things in Amos, and then we'll go on to the next point, which is very deep. And we'll see. So let's take a look at Amos. Here it says, one diuk in the pasuk over here, it says, V'chala aretz ba'u Mitzrayim. All the aretz came, and then ba'u is plural, right? So it's like it's missing a word. It's really like Yoshvei haaretz ba'u. And you could say haaretz ba'u because the haaretz doesn't act. It's the people who live in the haaretz act. So it's as if the pasuk says Yoshvei haaretz. Okay? So I just want to show some parallels. Once we know that Amos is talking about this parasha, we'll see some lashonos in Amos that are parallel, I think, these psukim. So one of them is just in pasuk K. It says Lemar. They say Masa Ya'aver Chodesh, right? This is in Amos B'Ches pasuk K. So how do they take advantage of the art? They say Lemar Masa Ya'aver Chodesh v'nashbira shever. So this is like Pari saying, "Go to Yosef Asher Yomer Lachem Tasu." Do what he says.
What's the Chodesh?
Well, time. In Amos it means time, but I pointed out before. I don't think you're here for that. That when a Chodesh and a Shabbos passes, that's like the 7 years of Sava were over. That's Shabbos. And the 7 years of began. But that's like Chodesh. It's the beginning of the new time. But the point in the pasuk in Amos is he's waiting for in another month and a week, the prices will go up. And that's Lamar. That's what they say. The fact that it says Lamar.
They know ahead of time.
Yeah, they know, they have predictions, right, that the prices are going to go up, right? So that's their saying. So they've
always been, even all generations.
Yeah, speculators, right? You're right. Exactly. What's it called? Like a killing, right? corner of the market. Anyways, so Lamar is because he told them to go to Yosef, and Yosef said nothing except for, let's wait a little bit, and then v'niftacha, right? And that's vayiftach Yosef. Okay, and there it says in pasuk ches, ha'al zoisli tirgaz haaretz, v'aval kol yoshev ba. So the Rav was a pnei chol haaretz, and also kulah, the whole aretz is corrupted. When the Rav was a pnei kol haaretz by Yosef, and kol haaretz ba'u Mitzrayim means the Yoshve haaretz came, and here it talks about the aretz and the Yoshve.
So it's also Tmiyah houses?
Yeah. Yes. And there it says like this. Look, going back to pasuk Zayin. Nishba Hashem b'go'in Yaakov im eshkach lo netzach. Kol ma'aseh. Hashem swore by the go'in Yaakov that he won't forget this forever. Now, what do we have in our parak? The next thing we know is Vayar Yaakov ki yeshev b'mitzrayim. So it seems to be a parallel. Hashem swears b'go'in Yaakov that this won't go on forever. But on the other hand,
Im eshkach lo netzach kol ma'aseh doesn't mean I won't forget. I won't do revenge.
Right. Exactly. On the other hand, right. Exactly. So on the one hand, it seems to be on the surface similar, because here Yosef does something, and then there has to be a response. I mean, here someone does something evil, and there's a response, which is B'go'in Yaakov, and it won't be forgotten. And of course, Yosef is forgotten, and we have to see the story has to get developed. And as soon as we have this in our parak of Yosef doing these actions of waiting till Chodesh and Shabbos, V'niftacha, Vayar Yaakov. And the story advances to the next stage because Yaakov knows something. So in that sense, this seems to be a surface parallel. But in the deeper sense, it seems to be the opposite, right? As you're saying, because here the pasuk is saying they're doing such evil things, so Hashem's going to avenge them. That's what's saying in Amos. And in Miketz, it's the story is progressing. Yaakov, this is what at least leads to their unity or something. It's not being avenged. Okay, right. Now, I want to show you like this. Look in Mishlei, Parak Yud Aleph. There are two very similar psukim in Mishlei, both talking about Yosef, but they say opposite things. In Mishlei, Parak Yud Aleph, pasuk Chav Vav. Mishlei Yud Aleph Chav Vav. It says, "Meinei abar yikavuhu la'im, ubracha lerosh mashbir." So someone who withholds the grain, the nation will curse. The mashbir receives brachas on his head. Okay, so this is Nidrash in the Medrash, obviously on Yosef, who's the Mashbir, and Yaakov blesses him with the Birchos Avicha and Birchos Hayrai to Vayisel Rosh Yosef, the Kodkod, right? The Rosh, the Mashbir, who's not Menei Bar, he gives out the bar, so he receives the brachas because he's the Mashbir, and he deserves to be blessed. Now, if you look in Mishlei Parak,
Bar is what?
Bar is grain.
Meinei bar.
Meinei bar, you can rule him. Yeah, if he'll hold it back, I'll curse him. But if he's Mashbir, like Yosef was, then he'll receive the bracha, and that's why on his Rosh, and that's why it says Tavois the Rosh Yosef. Okay?
Question is, Yosef was also the first thing, right?
What? Menei bar. He was also Menei bar. Now look at he was Menei bar because he took a while till he gave it out. Now look in Mishlei Parak Chav Daled. This pasuk we spoke about in the past. Parak Chav Daled, pasuk Chav Daled. Omer l'Rosh Tzadik Ato Yikvuhu Amim Yizamuhu L'Umim. So if you tell the Rosh, so again we have Menei bar Yikvuhu L'Um, but if you bracha l'Rosh Mashbir, here it says if you tell the Rosh that he's a tzaddik, the Amim will curse you. And if you mechiach them, then it'll be pleasant. So here it says if you want a bracha, if you want to deserve the bracha, you have to be mechiach the Rasha. Right? So Sayim Yishak, Meshiv Dvarim Nechoichem. If you'll be Meshiv Dvarim Nechoichem, then Sayim Yishak, and Hafim Mechutz Ma'achtecha, V'ato Lasadloch, Achav V'nis V'secha. Now, Bekitzer, this is referring to Yosef, who, when Pari told him, Ato Tia al Ami, do you remember that discussion? Were you here for that?
Which?
Ato Tia al Beisi, Al Picha Yishak Kol Ami. There's a problem with that, right? That what does Yosef have to do with the Am of Pari? Picha Yishak Kol Ami. Okay, I don't remember the whole drasha there. Okay, fine. There's something about the Amim. Either way, Yosef was told Picha Yishak Kol Ami, and here it says Hosayim Yishak Meshiv Dvarim Nechoichem. That means, and he didn't do what the pasuk says, right? He told Pari, you're tzaddik. He wasn't mechiach him. So he doesn't deserve the Birchas Tov, right? So the two Pesukim on Mishlei, one talks about if you're mashbir, then you get the Birchas Tov. The other pasuk says if you tell the Rasha the truth and you're not haker ponim mishpat, that pasuk before, Perikadal pasuk chav gimel, gamil lachacham haker ponim mishpat bal tov. Don't be maker ponim mishpat. If you're maker ponim mishpat, that's a bad thing. Instead, you have to tell the Rasha that what he is. The other place in Mishlei it says in pasuk Perikav Ches, haker ponim lo tov al pas lechem yifsha gover. So he was maker ponim. Yosef was maker ponim for the pas lechem. And really, if he wants to get the Birchas Tov, he has to mechiach the Rosh. Okay? So which one did he do?
She was also mechiach the Bnei also afterwards.
Yeah, okay, right. But yes, that's true. But this is talking about that he wasn't mechiach Paro. Okay? So now, on a Tana like this, it's very clear in Sefer Amos that, and it's very clear from these psukim, that Yosef, and the end of Vayigash, that Yosef took advantage of the Mitzrim for Pharaoh's benefit. In Pirkei Belezer, clearly very aware of all these, working with all these drushes, Pirkei Belezer talks about Yosef, and the Radal already says that there's a problem with the gears over here, so it's not clear exactly what it's saying. But I'll tell you, he's talking about that Yosef knew the 70 languages, and everyone would come, the whole world would come to Mitzrayim. It says, Kol ha'aretz b'Mitzrayim is the whole world, everyone talking in his language, and they used to talk to each other and find out what the price is, what's the shar, and when they came to Yosef, he would tell them the same report, the reported shar, that's what it is, the prices did not go up. I'm not raising the prices. Because Yosef, something to do with the fact that Yosef understood that they were talking to each other. It's not clear. Meaning something about the Shivim Lashon is talking to each other, each in their Lashon, and Yosef told them exactly as you reported to you in your language. Now that you got to me, I'm respecting what was reported to you. I'm not raising the prices. If you change if you raise prices, you're not roising and bracha, which is the Gemara. Babasa says, "Mafkiye sharim aleim nemar imeshkach lenetzach kol mazeh lipsukim in amis." And here it's called einer roising and bracha. If you raise price, if you mafkiye sharim, you're not going to be roising and bracha. So the Pirkei Belezer says that Yosef, in his position of knowing Shivim Lashon, for some reason that's not good with that. And the Ratal says it's already hard to figure out what it means. Was not mafkiye sharim, because otherwise you won't be roising and bracha. Right now, he clearly was. The pshat is like this, because the pasuk in Amos says, "Im eshkach lenetzach." I can't forget. This is a terrible thing, which corresponds to an hour parsha. Vayar Yaakov kishev Mitzrayim. The good things are happening. It's going to be finally the families get back together. The story is progressing and going to its bright ending, right? Because the pshat is like this. The pshat is, on the one hand, Yosef deserves a bracha because he's the mashber. On the other hand, he's also Minei Bar. But the reason why he's Minei Bar is because he's Omer l'Rasha Tzadik Ata. The other pasuk in Mishnah. In other words, since he's working with Paro, and he's not able to tell Paro how bad Paro is, so therefore he's going to do things that are really not his fault. They have to blame them on Paro. So yes, Yosef does everything wrong. And Afal Pikein, in other words, like the Pirkei Belezer says, Yosef is such a tzaddik, he didn't change the prices, but he did. The pshat is like this. The pshat is, wait a second. It says in Mishlei that Yosef gets a bracha for not being Minei Bar, for being a mashber. What do you mean? He was Minei Bar. He was after Minei Bar. The teretz is, well, look what else it says in Mishlei about Yosef. It says you can't tell the Rosh Tzaddik and get the bracha. So what that means is like this, that the manias, the fact that Yosef did what he did, and therefore was taken Minei Bar, is really not his problem. It's really Paro's problem, which is why the pasuk could say about Yosef, bracha l'rosh mashbir, which is clearly talking about Yosef, because even though Yosef did not do this, that's not Yosef who's not doing this. It's Paro who's not doing this, and Paro is saying, go to Yosef, let him do it. That's a smoke screen. You really have to understand. No. This whole Ashayim Lechem Tasu is a big joke. It's actually all Paro's fault. And the Mele Vayar Yaakov is an Eshkach Lenetzach Kol Masayim. How long could we let Yosef be corrupted by Paro? That's exactly what Amos is saying. Vayar Yaakov is staying Vayishkachehu. Vayishkachehu, that Yosef is languishing in jail. Nishba Hashem B'Goin Yaakov and Eshkach Lenetzach. We have to redeem Yosef. Yosef is still not redeemed because look what's happening to Yosef because Paro is corrupting him.
Is it explicitly anywhere that this thing that Paro was behind it all?
So the Chizkuni just says that point that that Pari couldn't do the business. That's all. He just says that point. That Pari is telling him to go to Yosef because the pasnish that Pari should make money with him. That's all. More than that, I don't know. No. I mean, you have it in the end of Vayigash. The Yosef made Pari rich. It's all about Pari's power.
Right.
And we read that at the Pesach earlier, but I didn't see before anyway. So that's the point. That's why it gets just to review this point, just because it's cheshbon, but it's all very clear. The reason why the Pirkei Avos says that Yosef is such a tzaddik, he doesn't change the prices, even though the Pesukim are saying he does. Maybe there's one stage later he didn't. That may also be true. But I'm saying is like this: the very Pesukim that say he did also tell us that he didn't. Why? Because it says in Mishlei about Yosef, bracha l'reish mashbir. Well, how do we know it's talking about Yosef? Because Yosef was mashbir chol ha'aretz, and he gets the bracha to Vosel l'reish Yosef. So clearly Yosef gets that bracha. And yet that pasuk says if you're minei bar, you're nikvulaim, which is the same. The answer is like this. But if you look at other places in Mishlei, it says a person gets cursed by the nation. It's for chanfening the Rasha. So then we understand that, you know what? You could be a bracha l'reish mashbir and also be minei bar yikvulaim. Because you're omer l'Rasha tzaddik. So that means you as a tzaddik are the bracha l'reish mashbir. Yosef ba'atzmusai, he's keeping prices low. He's telling everyone that, we'll keep your price. Maybe the Pirkei Avos is saying something like he knew the Shimon L'Shayna, so he was able to get behind Pari's back and keep the prices down, even though he told Pari the prices were up, but he knew what they were talking, and he told him, no, I'll keep your prices. I don't know. Maybe there's some pshat, miyasher that both things happen. That doesn't concern me so much. My concern is just in terms of the drasha. Mitzad echad, Yosef is doing menei bar. But mitzad sheni, if you look closely at Mishlei, that's related to the other thing that's happening there, which is that he's over Rosh Tzadikata, which tells you that he's really not that. That's really the opposite of what he is. But he's working for the Rasha, and he's not calling out the Rasha, as we've been discussing the whole time. So therefore, he's forced to do things that are actually the antithesis of himself, and therefore he gets credit for the good, bracha l'reish mashbir, while having an excuse for the minei bar. And that's why Vayar Yaakov ki Yashav Mitzrayim corresponds to Nishba Hashem b'gon Yaakov neshkach l'netzach, because when it says in Amos, Hashem won't forget it forever, it doesn't only mean I'll avenge him and I'll punish him. Because in the event that a tzaddik is being corrupted by Rasha, then when Hashem says I can't forget this forever, what it means is I have to redeem the tzaddik. I can't let the Rasha make the Yosef into a bad guy. Okay, I want to say one last thing, which is not related to this. Just in this last pasuk, the last pasuk in the perek, it says it's a difficult pasuk because it says "V'chol ha'aretz bar Mitzrayim lishbar el Yosef." It should have said "Chol ha'aretz bar Mitzrayim el Yosef lishbar," because Yosef is the one they came to, and that's many people say it's Mikra Masoros, Ibn Ezra, Rashbam, Rashi. Some versions I think has that. The Pirkei Avos, the same Pirkei Avos says that they all brought Yosef gifts, and this I was referred to from the Radal, who almost never misses a Zushtal in Tanakh, and explains the where the Medrash is coming from, why the Medrash says that point. There he says that in Malachim Aleph Perek Yud, Pasuk Chav Dalet, it says V'chol ha'aretz mivakshim es pnei shloimoi v'shmoy es chachmasei shenasim lokim b'liboi v'heima mevi'en ish min chasei klei chesed v'klei zav v'slomis. So when the Pasuk says they all came to Shlomo, it says and they brought gifts. So when the Pasuk over here says they all came to Yosef, what's the point of saying they came to Yosef? It's trying to say, look, the Yosef was in a position of power, and everyone needs him. Oh, everyone needs him means they all bring him gifts. So the Radal says that's why the pasuk says. I think he says this point also. That's why that answers this problem with El Yosef, because the pasuk is not saying the destination. El Yosef, yeah, say okay, where they go? Yosef was the one who had the bread, so they came to Yosef. No, the pasuk is saying El Yosef, that made Yosef into the center of attention for other purposes, like it says by Shlomo, that since Yosef was the one who they eventually got to, therefore that suggests that good things are going to happen to him. I don't know what those good things are. Look in Shlomo, you see, obviously he gets gifts because he's the one that everyone needs. So that's why the pasuk breaks it up. If we just say Cholad Bo El Yosef, Mitzrayim El Yosef Lishbar, we'd say, oh, that's where they got to. But no, pasuk they came to Mitzrayim Lishbar, and that made Yosef the center of everyone's attention, and in all sorts of ways, to giving him gifts too. Okay, I just want to end one thing. I said, why did I start to that pasuk in Kehelas? There it says Shlach Lach Va Pnei Hamoyim, and they put it away and Tin Chelik L'Shiva V'Gam L'Shmoina. After 8 years later, after 7 years, you'll get it back. There it says Shlach Lachmo al Pnei Hamayim, and here it says V'Rav Hoya al Kol Pnei Haaretz. And we already spoke about that. This story starts at Paro Imin Hal Yo'ar, and he appointed Yosef al Haaretz. So we have this also, that the lechem al Pnei Hamayim, which is because of the dreams with the Yo'ar, come back when the Rav was al Kol Pnei Haaretz. Okay, that will be that, and we finished Parak Mem Aleph. Very good.
That's dope.
Thank you.